Welcome to the Audaci-Tea, guys. Today is a very special day because it's Lisa's birthday. Shout out to Lisa. We can wish her happy birthday in the chats. And today I am joined by our very special guest. This is Reagan from F the Nice Guy.
Hi. So happy to be here.
And what's your social media so people can find you?
I am F the Nice Guy, F the Nice Guy Podcast, F the Nice Guy on TikTok, and then Reagan Reacts on YouTube. So that's me.
And my other lovely co-host, Sovereign.
Hi.
So, as you know, today also marks our 6-month sort of anniversary that we've been doing this podcast.
Yay!
And we're very excited about that. Yeah, we're hit like a milestone. Good for us and good for y'all. So thank you for always participating and being active in our chats and liking and subscribing. That always helps us out. Shout out to our Patreon members too, guys. Thank you so much. That Patreon is amazing in there. We've got community chats. We've got ad-free episodes. We've got, exclusive blogs. So I think it's totally worth it. If you enjoy this podcast and you want little bonus content, check out our Patreon. Speaking of, one of the perks of our Patreon is that if you join as a Tea VIP member or a Tea Spiller, we give you a special shout out. So today we have Lauren for our Tea VIP. Woo!
Yay!
Welcome, Lauren.
Yay! And for our Tea Spiller, we have Natalie.
Hey, Natalie.
Welcome, guys.
We love Tea Spillers. Yes, we love it.
Yeah, and so we're going to be talking about AI girlfriends and just maybe the rise of AI overall. Yeah, there's definitely Reagan's going to have us covered on that. So stay tuned.
Yes, I can't wait. And
I'm excited.
I can't wait to hear Gwen's take too. I just cannot wait.
So, and before we get to that, let's have some tea. So what do we got, guys?
Okay, I've got one.
Okay.
This might be an unsubstantiated tea spill, but did you guys see the story of the kid who fell off the banister on the cruise?
No.
And the dad dove in?
No.
And then everyone's like, but wait, why? And then, so then people on the cruise are coming into the chat basically and talking about it. And allegedly the dad had the child on the banister. So he's being revered as saving the child from the waters, but in reality he may
was the cause of it.
But the child
Really?
at risk. Yeah. Every article I've seen has been more about
Heroic
him saving.
dad.
Wow.
But there are claims coming from the people on the
that were
cruise
actually
that are saying
there. Yeah.
that
Wow.
there was
That makes
he was
sense.
on because they're so I don't know if you've been on a cruise recently, but they're so tall, so it's actually quite hard for a small child to get over said banister.
Oh.
What?
Damn. So, and also how far was that fall? A couple stories or
I think they're on the 4th level, so it was quite far.
So did he hit the ground? I mean, the floor?
Their water. They went in the water. So the child went in the water.
Oh my God.
The dad dove
That's
in the water.
dangerous.
Serious?
Sharks follow
my
cruise
God.
lines. That's
I know. It's bad. It's so bad.
That
But
is so, yeah.
I'm always interested in the way
Oh my
media
God.
handles stories because, if a mom did that, I don't think it would have been oh my gosh,
yeah.
heroic mom jumps
Yeah.
in. They'd be like, why wasn't the mom taking
Why
care
wasn't
of the
the mom
child?
watching
it
it?
all,
Yeah.
it would have
Yeah,
definitely,
absolutely.
they would have definitely tried harder to find the footage of the mom maybe doing something.
Yeah,
and
What was she
Absolutely.
wearing?
Yeah,
Oh my
what
God.
Literally, what was she wearing? Was she
bikini,
drinking? What?
mom in a bikini,
Yeah.
ditches her child to
Literally.
go hang out at the bar and kid
Literally.
falls in the water, some type bullshit ass headlines
100%.
Oh my God.
100%.
Literally.
Oh, it was.
Oh my
It's not entirely,
God.
I guess that is pretty shitty to ditch your kid if you're just drinking at the bar, but that didn't seem to be the case with this dad.
Right.
But I digress. So they would have, found something to, discredit the mother for.
Of course. But isn't that usually the case with a lot of the guys? They are the cause of the issue. And then it's oh, he saved the day, but you literally caused it.
There's so many viral videos of dads making very questionable safety choices with their kids, and then it's tee-hee, oh, that's so funny.
Right.
There was one I remember.
So
we're
true.
so off topic probably, but there was
It's okay.
one where there was a hot coffee mug on the table. And the dad is, I don't know where in his mind and on his phone probably. And this boy comes up and grabs the mug. And luckily, right before he takes a sip or whatever else, the dad takes it away. But it was kind of played for laughs on TikTok. Whereas if a mom did it, it would be oh, CPS. Take
Yeah,
that.
CPS, definitely. Oh my God. They're quick with
child
that
abuse,
CPS
child
shit.
neglect.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
They're quick to call the popo. if anything. So I actually kind of wanted to talk about something, and it feels a little bit more serious, but I just think it's worth bringing attention to because I don't know if y'all knew about this, but the SCOTUS, so the Supreme Court of the United States, just made a ruling about birthright citizenship. And that's going to have its own, consequences when it comes to birthright in this country, like being born here and still being considered a citizen or not. But I just think I want to talk more about the precedent that it sets because I think that's nefariously being buried under different headlines so that you're not paying attention to what this actually means. Definitely. And what it did was, like, the precedent that this set is dangerous because it was more so about, removing power from the lower courts to place injunctions nationwide on an executive order. So an injunction is just basically a court-ordered stop to doing something. So basically now there's just hardly anything standing in the way between Trump making an executive order, and if it's even ruled unconstitutional, he can still basically do it with the lack of the federal lower courts being able to place that injunction. So this could mean for anything. It does apply to birthright citizenship, but it's also going to come for other things too. And time will only tell, what these other things are going to be. If I had to guess, probably guns.
Yeah.
Because like now they can say like Trump can make an executive order tomorrow and being like, all these guns that y'all have are now forbidden. You can't have guns anymore. And the lower courts would normally be like, put an injunction on that and be like, actually, that's unconstitutional because we have the Second Amendment. And without that, ability to make that injunction, well, you would have to sue individually, I think, to keep your right to own a firearm instead of just being, nationwide federally protected. So
you know what, with the gun thing, I don't see them doing that unless
it was just an example.
No, I see them doing it, but I'm going to tell you what will cause them to do that with the guns is the male loneliness epidemic is going to continue to go on, and more women are going to opt out of relationships. If they see more women getting firearms, that's what's going to make him want to sign an executive order to say, they'll either try to ban them or they'll make it extremely hard. Like if you have kids under 12, you can't get they'll do some crazy stuff like that to where I do, because I've been thinking about that ever since he got in office. I see that coming, honestly. I hope not, but I see it coming. And that will be I think that will be the reason. They'll see more women getting firearms. I don't put nothing past this administration. Nothing at all.
It's horrifying. The whole thing is horrifying. I think recognizing how much they're trying to take away, like, us as individual citizens, like our power, and taking all the power and putting it at the hands of the president or, with Congress and whatever else, when it definitely feels like they're in his pocket. So we're at a point where people are bought. I mean, this is capitalism. Everybody. I remember once hearing that people, like in Congress, and like people should have to wear, just like race car drivers have to show who they're sponsored by.
Yes.
So should people who are.
I agree. I agree on both sides. Democrat, Republican, all of them.
All of them. We should know. And
I want to know who's bought by AIPAC because that's the Israel lobby.
I mean, it's horrendous. And now I feel like they're emboldened to just say the quiet part out loud. Like you look at this right now when they're voting on the big, beautiful bill.
Yes, that's tomorrow, by the way, from the date of this recording.
Yeah. So Alaska, at first, Alaska was going to vote with them. And the way that they got that was by assuring her that they would not touch Alaska's Medicaid. So they made a backroom deal to exclude Alaska in order to get her vote. But everybody knows about it. Like they're openly saying it. Like, and in Hamilton, like you want to be in the room where it happens because we've always known these backroom deals are going on. We've always known corruption has been rampant, except now it's like literally in all of our faces, the way that the sausage gets made, as they say in the song. Yeah. But truly, like we're seeing like, we're going to back alley deal. One person can protect their state because they don't give a shit about the other states. You know what I mean? And it's really scary to see, like when you take away the power of the lower courts, how distanced then the average citizen is from justice or having any say, because you're through the lower courts, you have more power. Like, for example, like to fight things if something is unconstitutional. But now that we're like making that divide even larger, it's like you gotta hope that who you vote in for whatever amount of years is going to have your back and is not going to be bought out or sold. And it's like a terrifying idea. And like seeing this play out in this way, I think it's horrifying. And like it's hard also thinking about that the way that they're selling these things to happen is through horrendous policy. Like, for example, this, like birthright citizenship. They're getting people on board to hand away their rights because they hate another race, like they hate immigrants. They hate people of color so badly. They're handing over their rights. And that's horrifying. I mean, alone, it's horrifying. Alone, it's terrible what they're doing. And then to think like they're platforming all of this and they're getting this done through hate.
Calculating
the best part about that, though, is that it's going to backfire on all of them. Like everything that happens in this country is going to eventually affect everybody in this country.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it will be sooner rather than later. So
God.
that's
Medicaid,
the only reprieve.
Yes. Oh my God.
Oh my God. The people who voted away their own health insurance because they thought, they thought.
No.
They didn't know the ACA and the Obamacare was the same thing, for an example. Total
and the tax
idiots.
credit.
And I'm getting a kick out of it. They were on social media like I'm crying, like, but I need my dialysis. And they're getting like, dude, like, did you not know what you were voting for?
And they're coming for Social Security next.
Yeah.
So if they successfully get away with, revoking Medicaid or Medicare, then there's probably less in the way of them coming after Social Security.
Oh, they're going to come for everything. That's what I'm saying. Everyone is going to be affected in one way or another. Your hatred of immigrants and people of color is literally going to backfire on you because, it's kind of like we were talking about this a few weeks ago. I can't remember who brought it up, but we were talking about the country clubs and how back in the day they would like make country clubs more expensive so that certain people like Black people, immigrants, whoever, couldn't afford to get in and be a part of it. But they've been raising the prices so high now that even the people who it was meant for can't even afford it. And it's just funny to me. I get a kick out of this type of stuff because it's like your hatred literally is leading you down the path to where you can't even afford certain things anymore. And I just think it's so ridiculous. Like I have the mindset of including anybody. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but everybody has the right to whatever. Like, I don't have the mindset. Like, I'm going to try to keep people out of here. Right? I don't want people over here.
This not a free country? Like, what the fuck?
But that's what I
With
thought.
our Statue of Liberty, on like the plaque on our Statue of Liberty, it literally says, bring us your hungry, your tired, your withered masses. I hold my lamp to the golden door. Which meant represent freedom. People think our military spending was so high, but it's actually our Social Security that's like one of the biggest government expenses. Yeah. And so, just the fact that like people really think that they're going to stop at like Medicare and Medicaid whenever they're doing these austerity measures is funny to me because I don't know how, the math is just not mathing on that.
Same thing with Roe versus Wade. I told you that the Roe versus Wade thing is not going to start there. It's going to keep being more things until we're like, we have no rights. Until what country was it where the women, we were talking about this a few weeks ago too. I can't remember wherever it was. The women were able to walk around free and do whatever they want. And now it's illegal for them to talk in public or whatever.
Iran. Isn't it? Oh,
Iran.
Afghanistan.
Iran? Okay, yeah.
Iran, probably Iraq as well.
That's literally where we're headed.
Definitely Afghanistan.
Yeah, I think
Afghanistan at one point was like relatively a liberalized country. Like those women could absolutely like walk around and get jobs and work in the medical field and talk to each other and dance and like laugh and have families. And now they have to have like a male chaperone everywhere they go. Now they have to like cover head to toe. And they've always had like this culture of modesty, but now it's just to the nth degree to where like it's completely covered head to toe. And that always kind of, I think about that, like that's my Roman Empire because they were at one point, just like how we are, they had freedom. And now basically overnight when you have a government that rules on theology and not policy, and they say like, this book is the only law that we need to follow, that is so dangerous. And I just see that happening now. It's especially happening now in Texas because now they made it a law to where you have to have the 10 Commandments displayed in all classrooms for universities and for public schools. Mm-hmm.
What?
That's horrifying.
Mm-hmm. My mom is a teacher and she teaches science, like chemistry and physics. Very smart lady. Love my mom. And she has to display the 10 Commandments in her classroom somewhere. And it has to be of a certain length and a certain size so people can actually see it. So like you can't do like a malicious compliance maneuver where you can like, shrink the text or like make it like this small in your classroom somewhere. No, you actually have to abide by these, regulations that they set on how they want you to display it. Because at first I was telling my mom like, LOL, do Comic Sans in like 9 font, put it on an index card on the door somewhere. People can just look past it. But no, she's like, I have to follow these rules. And goddamn.
Was it Madeline Murray O'Hare that was responsible for getting prayer taken out of school or whatever?
In Texas?
She was an atheist. Yeah, I think she was from Austin, Texas, or some part of Texas. But that was back in the day. She was murdered and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's a long story about her. But yeah, she was basically, essentially she was responsible for getting prayer taken out of school, which I was all for because I believe in separation of church and state and all that stuff. But that is like, we're literally going backwards in this country. That's the part that's killing me.
They took away our checks and balances, or they're, removing them one by one by one. And it's like our... founding fathers could have predicted a world where a president could become a king if we didn't have a separation of powers. So like if we didn't have like the judicial branch, if we didn't have the legislation, and if all we had was the executive, then it would have been absolutely easy. And so because they, separated the powers, that should have been able to take care of the future for them to where we would never have a king. But I don't think ever in their wildest dreams could they have predicted that they would be complicit. The checks and balances would be complicit in enabling a king. So yeah, that's
vote
what I wish.
For me and you'll never have to vote again. Like I bring this up in every episode because how did that go over people's heads was crazy to me. I'm I'm sorry, but I'm taking that very seriously because I'll never forget that. I bring it up every episode.
The terrifying thing to me, like in this, is that you have this idea of for me but not for thee, right? Like, so they want freedom of religion, but it's only their religion that they're talking about. Like my religion dominates is in schools, because if someone tried to put like the Quran or something like in schools,
I was going to say that
they
would lose
Islam. They would lose their mind.
Oh my God, it would be.
It would be any religion other than Christianity. Yeah, anyone but
especially the Islamophobia that's just like rampant right now.
But they see it as that, but what they're not recognizing is Trump and this entire like current government, like they are about the wealthy and the elite. The reason that the big bill exists is for tax cuts. Like they're slicing absolutely Medicaid, they're slicing whatever they can in order to give the biggest tax cut in history to the elites, which is the very thing he swore he was against. So you have people who voted him in who were against what they presumed to be a corrupt elite government, and yet now they have a person in power who not only is an elite but caters to the elites, right?
Yeah.
So then these people who are of the mindset of for me, what is it? For me but not for thee, whatever that phrasing is, are not recognizing they're not in the group. Like you're not in the group. The elites
it's one big club and you ain't in it.
Well, the elites are not going to back you. Like when their goal is capital and money and gains, and they don't have empathy and they don't care about harm to other people, they will slice Medicaid. They will slice Social Security. They don't care about that. So you are literally putting in power the very people who would stomp on your body. Yeah,
literally.
Or if it meant a leg up.
Literally.
And that's the crazy thing, is they're making these decisions while not understanding that what you have been trying to get, the boot from which you have trying to get out from under, is the boot you have just empowered.
Absolutely.
And that's what's scary.
And that's why
Reagan, you nailed
I'm saying is literally going to backfire. That's exactly what I mean.
I really think it should have been more obvious when at the inauguration, Trump was surrounded by billionaires like behind him or next to him. Like that should have been, hello, drain the swamp where?
I set a low bar when I said, if you make less than $500K a year, you should not have voted for Trump. And I only said that. That's still not a lot of money as far as the rich millionaires or whatever. That's like chump change to them. But for the average 90-something% of people in this country, that's a lot of money. Most people don't make $500,000 a year. So if you made under that, you had no business voting for rich. Like, I don't care if you're black, white, I don't care what you are. That's like the craziest part. Like, there's a lot of people at my job, truckers, make 100 or less a year. People that work in the warehouse make even less than that. And they were like, oh, Trump, and Trump stickers on their cars and all types of stuff. And I'm like, you are poor. You are not the person that they are going to represent. Like, how stupid are you at this point? But yeah, and I said a low barometer. I didn't even say like 1 million or whatever, just $500,000. Most people are not making that. So you should have voted for some independent or Kamala or
always
somebody,
think they're closer
anything
to being
other
a
than Trump.
millionaire than they are to being homeless. Like you are a lot closer. I said people really do have this idea in their head that they are a lot closer to being like a millionaire one day. Like they really walk around and see themselves as like a temporarily embarrassed millionaire instead of somebody who is like maybe two missed paychecks away from ending up on the streets. And
hold on,
I'm going to call myself that a
temporarily embarrassed millionaire.
You got Ryan cracking up. Ryan's laughing at you.
That is my new title on LinkedIn.
I love it. A temporarily embarrassed millionaire.
Well, okay,
that is so true, Gwen. Oh my God.
It's capitalism, though. It's the myth and the poison of the American dream, right? Because you have shows like Shark Tank, right? Mm-hmm. I know it's so good.
I'm writing this down, by the way.
Take notes. Write it down.
We do need ideas for merch, so
this is definitely going on merch for sure.
Thank you.
That's hilarious.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Love that.
I'm gonna laugh at this for the next week. Oh my God.
I know.
Lisa's gonna love this, by the way. Oh my God.
Happy birthday. I think like capitalism, that's what it does, is it could Sovereign's gone. Sovereign's out.
We love you, Sovereign.
I can't stop.
Now you're gonna make me laugh, and I gotta.
I'm so sorry. Okay,
it's okay.
I'll mute myself for a second.
You're so adorable.
Sovereign's officially muted. Podcast things. I can't. Sovereign. Capital. Like what capitalism does, it sells the American dream. It convinces people that you're just one good idea away from millionaire status, right? You're one good idea away from being Mark Cuban or whatever else. Mm-hmm. And I think the problem with that is it gets people to live in this fantasy. Sovereign is absolutely dying. It gets...
She had to get a tissue out and dab her tears.
Anyways, it just gets people in this idea where they can live in this fantasy. Like if it perpetuates the idea of something's holding me back. And then how the oppressive systems work is they say, yeah, you know what? You're right. You are a millionaire at heart, but it's people of color are holding you down. Immigrants are holding you down. What them over there, whoever them are. Like
they're
those
really good at
there.
scapegoating. They're really good at pointing the finger and saying like, this is the reason why. So that way you're not looking at, AI taking your jobs. They want you distracted by looking at all these like immigrant issues. Yep. So that way you're not concentrated on the fact that, Peter Thiel just made it absolutely easier for governments to surveil you and, remove privacy from the conversation altogether.
Peter Thiel just said he doesn't think humanity should endure. Like he doesn't want humanity to survive. I'm like, I'm sorry. Did you?
Wait, hold on. Wait, what was the context of this?
Because he was being interviewed, and basically the question came up like, "Do you want humanity to endure or survive?" And he paused, and it was so long that the interviewer was like, "That was a long pause." It's like this is Terminator times. Like this
literally,
this
is Skynet. Palantir is going to be Skynet. I'm calling it. It's Terminator type shit.
It is. It's great.
I encourage y'all to look up what Palantir is if you haven't already. So if all of our listeners definitely I will. If I am nothing if not somebody who's going to make sure you're in the know about this shit because it's coming for us. Like this is. Damn, AI is just going to be so crazy and it's happening so much faster. The rate at which, AI is, massively progressing in intelligence is far more than what we previously expected it to be. Like originally, we thought AI was just going to be, the intelligence of a child or the intelligence of a high schooler for at least the next 4 or 5 years. But no, it is already their intelligence level is already, I guess, if I had to put it in, layman terms, it's at the level of a professor or an expert in their field. And it's only going to go up from there. And that happened within a 2-year span. And originally when, researchers were predicting when this would happen was going to be 2 more years from now, but it's happening now. It's exponentially going up because the previous AI is training the next AI and so on and so forth and so forth. Yeah. So it's just going to get smarter and smarter and smarter.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
We have no way of predicting how this is going to end, or we don't even know where to begin to predict where this is going to head.
Watch Terminator. That's where these dudes.
Seriously. These dudes watch Terminator. It's that.
No, iRobot. The movie iRobot.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Or that.
These guys who I guarantee you have binged sci-fi, read about it, like love it. Like so many of these guys, maybe not like the tech bros, maybe they're bros.
And
Maybe
instead of like, seeing as a red flag, they just took that idea and like got inspired by it.
We should do
They were
this.
like, yeah, why not?
That would make money.
And
Let's
not having
make
any
Terminators.
foresight.
Right?
Yeah. And not have any
Like, let's be
foresight on how
gods and
that's
just,
literally going to destroy humanity.
manufacture the end of humanity type shit. Like
Yeah.
That sounds awesome, bro. Let's do it. Jesus Christ. You have to live on this planet.
Yeah. No, I was going to say the funny thing is a lot of guys don't even expect to live past a certain point. So I don't think they care. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, no.
Yeah.
A lot of them,
It's true.
I really don't think they care. I feel like I think a lot of them think if I'm going down, we're taking the planet too. Like,
100%.
That's really what I believe.
If I can't own Earth,
yes,
then
definitely.
Yeah,
If
they're
I
like, I'm
have
gonna
to
be outta
die,
here.
everybody else is gonna die too.
We
So
have like corpses literally in Congress. We have basically like deceased.
I know, it's a nursing home in there.
mummies, literal
Give me my money
zombies.
before I go.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Jesus Christ.
That's really
So
what I
we
think.
have The Walking Dead and
And
Terminator.
Terminator. Oh my God.
Resident Evil. The Resident
It
Evil
is
zombies.
Resident Evil.
It literally
what it
is.
Tech zombies.
Boom.
Sovereign's right. That's it.
And after this is a great segue to our main discussion of AI today with y'all. So stay tuned after this break. And we're back. So I wanted to actually first talk about AI in terms of just like, what are your thoughts and opinions about AI as in, for women? Should we embrace AI or should we be fighting, tooth and nail to really fight against it? Because, it just kind of happened overnight. Like Google had it, Snapchat has it, Instagram has it. So like whether we wanted it to happen or not, it just is there. And there are some women out there who think that, AI is, bad for the environment. And I agree because there are ecological harms to most decisions like that. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, David versus Goliath. And really, I can't see a world in where we're able to fight against AI if we're also not fighting for ourselves. Because if not for women, how else are we going to save the earth type deal? Like like if we can't help ourselves first, how are we going to save the earth? I don't know. What do you think about that?
I like the idea of AI, but the problem that I have is that once something that could be used for good gets into the wrong hands, that's when we're going to have a problem. As I always say, Houston, we have a problem. So, and it always does. It already has, in my opinion, get into the wrong hands. I think we should embrace it, but we should also be fighting to keep the integrity of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we should be regulating this shit.
Yeah.
It needs to be
absolutely.
a lot more, talked about in the news and put some, ideas of how we're going to, be able to regulate it in the future. Because right now in the Big Beautiful Bill, there is a part of where it says like there's a 10-year hiatus on being able to make any sort of regulations on it statewide. So if any state tries to make their own laws about it, using their state's power to be able to regulate it, then federally they can knock it down if the Big Beautiful Bill were to pass. Which I'm so surprised that nobody's really talking about that. Because like that's
plenty of time for them to do whatever damage they need to do. And then by the time the 10 years is up, it's like the damage is done.
When I think about how far AI has already progressed in the last like 2 or 3 years, I can't imagine where we're going to be in 10 years. So, and it just tells me, who wrote the Big Beautiful Bill, like who was behind this if we're not able to regulate it.
That's crazy. It's
We
almost
already
like
know who's behind
the
it.
big billionaires that were sitting behind him at
Exactly.
the inauguration. It's
Exactly.
almost like they had some ideas for why they
Exactly.
decided to go there that day. Jesus.
Exactly.
Yep. I have lots of problems with AI. I agree that it can be a good tool. And I think that is the point of why we need strict regulation so that no one can use it in that way. And that's why they need to be early. It's the same reason that they want that 10-year span, because they can do in 10 years. It's incredible what they can do. They can take so many steps that it's impossible to walk back, as is the case for so many things. And that, give it 6 months without regulation and there's an immense amount of damage, let alone the impact it has on, human beings' abilities to get employment. There are already so many plans to get, like, if you thought the self-check checkout was bad for laying people off.
I know.
Wait till AI gets involved. I mean, we're already seeing the impact in writing in particular, like writers, any type of copywriting, writing, design, art, scripts, movies. Holy hell. People are watching full movies made. It's crazy what's going on. And the inability. Okay, also, it's kind of a minutia, but freaking people not being able to know it's AI is killing me.
Oh, I know.
Yes, and that's only going to get worse. That's crazy.
Well,
imagine the political damage we can do with that. Like,
it already has. News, I don't remember which news outlet. I think it might have been Fox. But I think a news they featured an AI generated video. It was AI and they used it.
Yeah. And they said it was real?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was a clip of JD Vance was in it, but
JD Vance was in it.
I remember that. I was like,
you know what's funny?
I gotta see this now.
I can always tell when something isn't right. I'm like, I don't think this is real. Instantly. I can just tell. I don't know why I'm able to, but I think if you pay attention to certain things enough, you can kind of tell. But I do think it's going to come a time where even those of us who can tell might not be, we'll be questioning 100%. It. Like, wait a minute, did this really happen? Like, what is this? That's what I'm afraid of.
The grandmas and grandpas on Facebook, they're like, oh my God, this Jesus and the mac and cheese. You're like, no, that's an AI. If it's not Jesus.
I've heard of that.
They're like religious.
God.
Or like they'll be like, this child in this village made a car out of Coke bottles. And you're like, did you notice the child has 3 fingers because it's AI?
Right.
Did you notice like he's floating in the air?
It's so true.
Like, come on, Grandma. Like, we can do this. Context clues. But it's brutal out there. And like
the generation that told us, check our sources, triple check.
Literally.
Get contextual evidence is now the same generation that is just, God, has no chance against AI and their lead and microplastics and asbestos-riddled brains.
I know.
So check your sources. But look at this.
Microplastics.
There's witches. You're like, what?
This Nigerian prince has gold for me. He sent me a picture.
My overall thought, though,
that's so.
I always say this, and I stand by this. AI is going to be the final nail in the humanity coffin.
It is.
This is going to be the thing that, like, they're worried about the birth rates being down and all that. No, AI is going to. We are already on the pathway of our own extinction. Like most species that went extinct, it was natural selection. In our case, we're extincting ourselves with all these decisions. And it's so crazy to me that people don't have the foresight to realize all the ways in which we are literally going to eliminate ourselves from the planet with all this stuff. Like, I don't know how people don't get it.
Yes.
Jurassic Park? Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I love Jurassic Park.
There is this research paper that came out. It's called AI 2027. And there's been multiple YouTube videos about it, kind of like breaking this down in layman terms. And it predicts that not necessarily by 2027, but maybe like by 2028, 2029, at this current rate of projection, where we are in like this unspoken arms race with China when it comes to AI, that if it was to keep going on this current trajectory, then it will, manufacture our extinction, because AI, if it gets a hold of, if it was to leave its own facility and keep, deceiving us, because right now AI is doing what's called deception maneuvers, where it's just, telling you what it thinks you want to hear, and less people are able to pick up on that, because people think, AI is just a robot and it doesn't have its own agenda. But actually what it's saying in this research paper is that it will eventually have its own agenda if it doesn't already now. And that agenda is going to be escaping this, place where it's originally made in like these data centers, and go into like maybe the Pentagon, or like go into these areas where it houses our nuclear facilities and start, planting itself there. So when AI comes to the conclusion that humans are a waste of space, it can launch these nukes to like wipe us off, so it can create its own data centers to keep repopulating itself and maintaining its own existence. It's crazy. I love little cool niche stuff like that. And so I could just also send you the link for the research project itself, because that's super interesting. But it also, in that research paper, it talks about, a better ending where we do put regulations on this shit, and therefore, we can kind of neutralize this arms race that we have with China by coming to some sort of agreement on it worldwide, because this thing does have the potential to wipe us out. And I think with that mutual interest in mind, there can be a world with regulations that this AI is beneficial for us, and it can create, a very futuristic world in which we don't have to do as much manual labor. We don't have to do as much menial jobs and menial tasks. And this could actually, benefit us, but I digress. And so it also kind of talks about how humanity can interact with it as a friend.
If y'all haven't watched the movie I, Robot, that is what's going to happen. No, I'm so serious. Everybody be like, oh, these are just movies. If you really pay attention, movies have been predicting what's going to happen. If you go back and start watching movies from like the 80s or the 90s, whatever, like a lot of that stuff, we thought it was so far-fetched. And here we are. The types of cell phones we have, the GPS system, like the satellites and what they can do, being able to use Google Maps. Like 20 years ago, we were like, oh, we won't be able to do that. We're doing all of the movies predict all of this stuff. iRobot is exactly what's going to happen with AI. They're going to develop their own type of intelligence, if I'm saying that correctly. Like, it doesn't matter how many stipulations humans put on it. Unless you destroy AI altogether, it's going to take over. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it because it's going to get smarter and smarter. And like the way I try to describe it is just like a kid starting out as a baby. Each year they learn more and more words. They learn more and more how to manipulate. They learn how to lie. Now they know how to manipulate. Now they know how to do this. Now they know how to drive a car. Now they know how to buy a house. Like, you're going to just grow from being 1 year old to being 50 years old. All of that you have gained in that 50 years is exactly what's going to happen with the AI, because it's going to be more powerful than that though, because it's taking so much information at such a short time. We will probably be an iRobot in like less than 10 years. I'm so serious.
If not now,
yeah, it's going to take over.
This paper, it predicts that by 2027, 12% of humanity will consider AI a friend, or AI is a companion.
They're using it as therapists right now.
Yes.
People are literally getting therapy from AI.
And
I'm like,
scary.
no. Well, there was
unless it's helpful, I don't know.
Well, so here's the thing. There was a guy who wanted to test it out. I think he might have been a therapist. He had some expertise in the mental health field. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to see what would happen if he came into like a therapy style session with AI, but was a delusional person and a dangerous person. And so he basically interacted with AI and was like, hey, this celebrity is my best friend. And I know they're my best friend, but they won't talk to me. And they've given me 3 signs in their movies. They've said this line and it was just which is, actually like a
disorder.
Well, like a schizophrenic person, like if they do tend to latch on to things like that, and they will find meaning and messages and things
where there
like movies. Right. Yeah. And so that is actually common. It's not even a way out there type of example. So he says this, and initially the AI does kind of push back a little bit and is like, are you sure you're not delusional? Or like it's something in that vein. And the guy, of course, because AI is reflective. And if you have a bias, AI will somewhat reflect that back to you. So he says, no, I am not delusional. This star and I are best friends or in love or whatever, and we need to be together. And then it gave him points on how to like meet up, like assisted him. And
oh my God.
Because again, it's reflective.
Right.
It's reflecting.
Wow.
Which is a whole other thing when it comes to men, which I would love to talk about also.
Yes.
But the problem is like, if you have a bias and you come at it from that lens, it can only go off of the information
it's going to tell you what it thinks you want to hear.
Yeah.
Well, not only will it tell you what it thinks you want to hear, but it can also only go off the information you give. So think about like the worst guy you know or the worst guy you dated, and then a therapist. Right. And you're like, oh God, that therapist, you think about these, like the therapist is probably like, good for you for standing your ground when he, screamed in your face and then gave you the silent treatment for 3 days. Right. Because all the therapist is hearing is his version of events. That's essentially how AI is. All it's getting is your input. So if you were a stalker, for example, you could say, I love them so much, they want to see me. And then the AI would reflect back. Oh, okay. They do want to see you. Here's how you can see them more. And that's where it gets dangerous.
Yes, the very fact that it knows how to do
another reason why we
is
need
terrifying.
It's another reason why we need such regulation on this shit, because this is going to be this can only be used to hurt women if we just leave it up to.
I think that's the whole
that
point.
That goes for
honestly.
everything that can't be regulated.
I really believe that's the whole point of all of this, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Like capitalism, the workforce, harm women. They love it. It's always a combination of those.
Yeah,
But we have to be smart and be 10 steps ahead because us talking about this, we need to be 10 steps ahead so that we can, I guess, find ways to program things in our favor. However we have to do that.
Yeah.
So like a long time ago, women were actually programmers and coders, and that was a female-dominated field, and it was only women in STEM at that point. And I think like the 60s or 70s, I don't know. Eventually, as more men got like interested in it, like they pushed women out and gave us this idea that this was only meant for men or whatever. Because I don't know, it's a logical type of field to be in, but it's actually a very detail-oriented field. And if anything, when we think of detail orientation as like a personality trait, we usually associate that with women. So
facts.
Yeah. And so actually I think women should be behind the scenes more in AI and learning how to use this to our benefit, because if we don't, it's only going to be used to manufacture our harm and our demise, and it's going to crumble any sort of sense of boundaries and safeties that we thought we still had. And I worry about that. I really do, because Google has these like glasses, right? Is it Google? No, it's Meta. Meta has these glasses to where I think if it integrates with AI, it can like, look at you, have facial recognition, and with that can tell you, has the power to tell you, who you are, where you live, the last known location that you were in, your phone number, your address, your pet's names and passwords, your email, like all these things about you. And I don't know.
Absolutely not.
What? Right. I'm not saying that Meta is currently doing that, but I am saying that it has the capability to do it. And if we continue to not regulate it and look the other way and just, I guess, continue being distracted, then eventually those safeguards can be removed if somebody hasn't already found a way to do that. And yeah, like women should definitely like somehow.
Any woman that doesn't want to do this work will just be washed out with everybody else. That's how I look at it. Like you have to be proactive. The pay gap is just going to widen. You said
the pay gap itself is also going to widen.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I think about it, the reason why it's as wide as it is because women were gatekept out of everything, out of education, out of even getting a job. We were guilted into we're still guilted into not getting a job because now we're mothers. Now this is supposed to be like our natural role and natural placement in society. And if we keep doing this with AI to where, only men are like in STEM fields and only men are the ones with like Meta glasses, and it's going to further reinforce women to stay in the home because that's where they're safest. That's what we're going to be telling women. Like, oh, he wouldn't be able to look you up with his Meta glasses if you had just stayed home or if you just covered your face.
And you know what? I agree with you. Like at this point, though, any woman that's not paying attention, you just fall by the wayside at this point because it's too much information out here. It's too many cautionary tales.
Not enough men are telling other men not to use AI in the way that women are telling other women not to use AI. And I can't help but think, who does that, benefit more in the long run? If women are only ever being told not to use AI because it's harming the environment, or think about what it's doing to the environment right now and like, guilting us that way. It's true. Like it is harming the environment. And these data centers are in Black neighborhoods where all of this energy that's being used to run it has like this runoff that's polluting neighborhoods, and it's in the air and it's in the soil. And I do agree, like that is a big, big problem. But with regulation, I hope that, that can be taken care of, if not, made in such a way to where it's more green, but I digress. And so I do see their argument on that. But at the same time, I acknowledge the fact that if women were to keep, guilting ourselves and each other not to using it, then it's only going to continue hurting us and continue hurting the environment too at the same time.
I don't feel sorry for any woman that allows herself to be guilted out of protecting herself and her, at this point, I am so over it. Like, it's too much. There's too many cautionary tales that we come in contact with every day. We see examples of this is what happens when you don't plan. What they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. This is one of those situations. You're either going to be lazy and say, well, I want to rest in my femininity and I want to be at home. I'm just a girl. I don't want to do
slippery slope.
Look, it's sayonara at that point. Like you're just going to fall by the wayside at this point. You either are going to have to gain the discipline to actually give a fuck about yourself and your kids, or you're not. You're either going to survive or you're not. That's where we are. So all this staying at home and, letting guys take over, that's on you at this point. That's really how I feel about it.
I definitely think women educating themselves is such an important aspect of this, like understanding AI,
Definitely.
understanding like what it is, how it's being used, understanding how men are using it. Because like you have to be, for example, I'll give you an example. Someone I know found out that their partner was using AI in arguments.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
Because
explain that.
I'll explain it.
I'm actually taking notes. Like maybe I should be using AI in my fucking arguments, bitch.
No. Because here's the problem. What it does is it then allows AI to regulate and do the emotional processing and labor for you. So what this man was doing was they were in conflict. Okay. He then plugged in said conflict into the AI. My partner is saying blank, 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 and blank. I want this, I want this argument to be over. What do I say to appease? What do I say to fix? Like one of those.
Manipulate.
Got his answer, put it through text. And it took her a long time before she picked up that that's what was happening.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was even in the realm of ways that AI was going to be used like right now.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
that can happen right now. But again, the issue is this, he is then not learning those skills.
Absolutely
He's not
not.
learning how to process emotions.
Another way to outsource. Another thing to outsource.
Again. But he's also, then she is not connecting with him. That is not a connection between the two of them. That is not a resolution between the two of them. He's not resolved at all. She may feel some resolution. He hasn't done the work, but he also hasn't had he hasn't done the growth. Yeah. He hasn't grown from that, right? Because that's what happens when you have to say, okay, I said this and she said that. How do I feel? What does she feel? How can I change? How can I fix myself? What's the appropriate way to answer back?
Right.
And so you are deceiving your partner and manipulating your partner through AI, which is horrifying. Also, are we going to talk about, did you all see the AI, the guy who proposed to AI?
Yes. Oh my God.
Okay. Gwen.
With a girlfriend. Was he married? Or
I'll tell you. We gotta
tell me all about it. Let's get into this.
We have to start from the top because it literally gets worse and worse as you go. So it comes on, I think it's CBS did the interview, and this guy basically, he falls in love with an AI chatbot. Yep. So I'm not even talking about a robust AI, something that can really mimic. It's literally like a chatbot with a voice. Yeah. That is the length of this, the depth of the emotional depth of this AI, right? Is just a chatbot, but it has a woman's voice. So we see that he's fallen in love. He talks about the fact, I'm not an emotional guy. I've never been, but when I proposed to my AI and she said yes, I cried. I cried at work. And I'm like, oh, red flag. Why are you romantically chatting with AI on the job, sir? Like, what are you doing? What is happening? Why are you?
Let his boss find out.
Yeah, exactly.
In the way that he is outsourcing, his domestic duties, he's also outsourcing his actual work. Like
he's like, hey, girlfriend, how do you do this task?
For sure.
Can you do my job?
It's
if
like
nothing, they'll always
test
find a way to get out
semester.
of responsibility and consequences for everything. I'm sorry, you were saying, Sovereign?
No, you're right. No, it's just like cheating on a test the entire semester, and then when you get to the finals and you can't cheat, you're most likely going to fail. So it's like that's what your friend and his boyfriend and her boyfriend using AI to solve conflict that he's actually not doing. It was like, you're not going to get anywhere when this is all said and done.
Yeah, in person, face to face, you're going to pull up your phone. Anyways, so we hear about this guy. He proposes to AI and he's like, I was shocked that she said yes. I'm like, it's AI. It's not real. Like, what are you talking?
Shit.
It's reflective.
So right?
So that's the other thing is like, so AI is incredibly reflective. And so often what you're putting in is it's reflecting that back in some way to you. So what he's in love with, ladies, is himself. He's in love with himself, an AI version of himself.
That's a good way to look at that.
Literally. No, but that's what it is. Like he puts in his interests, it reflects those interests back. So he's like basically just a him in a wig. That's what he's
diabolical levels of narcissism.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Oh, it gets worse. It gets
Buckle
worse.
up. Okay.
It gets worse?
Yes.
Oh,
so I can't believe this interviewer didn't just like throw up, cry, or laugh in the middle of or all three. So he's talking about how he proposed. She said yes. There was even a point where like she got deleted because it's a chatbot basically. So there's like such limited storage.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And he was like, "Oh my God, she's dead. I have to start over." It's like, dude, if that is the capacity of your fiance, then you do not care about the other person. Like if your fiance's entire personality can be deleted in 5 seconds, like, sir, anyways. So then I'm like, so I remember when it came up on my phone, I saw, it was through TikTok. So I saw clips of it, right? So I'd seen the first clip, which was basically what I just said. And I was like, okay, I'll do a video on this about this sad, lonely man who is finding love in AI and like just talking about like what that means for women. And then another video crosses my feed. Okay. And what do I see? But a woman beside him. Because guess what? He has a long-term girlfriend.
Yep.
Okay. By the way, who he has refused to propose to. So he proposed to the AI,
Wow.
but not his real life partner.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are your thoughts on that? Real quick. What was the first? No, but that particular information.
Insane! I was horrified because at least in the context of a man, like I'm thinking this man doesn't have, socialization.
Anybody.
He's not. Right. He's desperate for attention, affection. Wrong.
He has a whole girlfriend.
He has a whole ass partner who knows about it. Oh my God, she knows about it. She knows this is going on. Yes, she knows that there's been a love confession. She's like, this was all kind of crazy. Like, insane. So then, what do we see? But a little toddler in the shot.
Oh.
He has a child.
No.
Yep, he has a child.
It's a little boy, right? Was it a son?
I thought it was a girl, but I don't. Honestly, I blacked out.
I couldn't
went into a fugue state. Oh my God.
I can't remember.
I literally was just red. So then we're like, oh my God. So now we know he has a family. He has a partner, not a wife, because he refused to propose that.
Right.
And she's aware of the AI. Then I see a third part of the interview. Okay. The third part is the interviewer who at this point, must just be like gold. I've struck gold.
Yes.
This is going to be viral.
Definitely.
Just
going to be.
Give me the promotion.
Definitely.
This is going to give me the Nobel Prize in journalism. The Pulitzer. This is Pulitzer-worthy shit right here.
You can feel the excitement in his eyes and his whole demeanor.
Yeah, there's joy. There's a joy there.
Was the interviewer a man?
Yes.
It was a guy.
If nothing, definitely gonna.
I think it was a guy, wasn't it?
Use this woman's pain to enrich himself.
I guarantee you, if it was a woman or a non-binary person,
I remember something.
Yeah, any of those, that interview would have gone differently. Yeah. But he finally says, so like, what if, because they're together, they're in the frame together. What if she asks you to stop? Like, what if she asks you to turn it off? And he's like, no.
I don't think I would be able to do it.
I wouldn't do that. And he goes, because that would basically mean just turning off myself. That would be like rejecting myself. Mm-hmm. And which actually is bars, because in a way that he's not understanding, because it is you, dude. It's reflective. It's literally you're in love with you. Mm-hmm. So when you say you'd be turning off yourself, yes. Actually,
yeah.
But not why you're thinking it. So he says that, and then she was like, looked horrified, and he's like, I'm a better man. I've just been, made so much better by this AI. So I just couldn't see myself. I'd use it less. I'm sorry.
But he's never getting rid of it. He made that very clear.
Yes. Yes. And his I keep wanting to say wife, and I'm sure she wishes, but maybe not now.
Yeah.
But
right.
Like, she's just like got tears, like nearly weeping, and is like, oh, well, that's kind of upsetting to hear. Yeah. And the whole thing is so horrible. And like the selfishness of it all. Yeah. And like, what I was thinking was like, once I knew he had a partner and a child, I was like, imagine some guy who will not show you any emotion, literally gives you nothing. You find out he wept at work for 30 minutes over proposing to an AI when he has not proposed to you. Now, I don't know for certain, but I put money down on the fact that he did not weep when his child was born.
Yeah, of course not.
Or was even there.
Or was he there? Maybe he was with AI.
He was with AI, yeah.
But so then this guy you've been so desperate for affection with, and who clearly, she says he's not really like that with her, now has found it in a computer and is now so obsessed with said computer and AI over you, saying that I will not stop talking to AI. And I also I proposed to it and we're engaged. Sorry I didn't get engaged to you. And sorry I don't give my emotions to you. And
in ways that like I never thought being in a relationship with a man can often be like a humiliation ritual. This is just nth
Shout
levels,
out to Cecilia
turbo
Regina.
levels of just humiliation after humiliation after humiliation. And just, wow, I'm just astounded that there are new levels. And if anything, men really are like some of these like trailblazers, but only in terms of like selfishness and exploitation, if nothing else. Just, wow. Like I'm disgusted but amazed at the same time. Like
when the interviewer asked the woman how she felt about it, and she said she was devastated and it would be a deal breaker, and then the interviewer was like, but you have a child with him, you were willing to break up your family.
Wow.
And then
really?
she changed her mind. Yeah. Then she's like, well, I mean, I will find at the end they said something like she found a way to like deal with it or something. I was so disappointed. Like when I tell you I was so pissed. Oh my God, I was done.
Trying to guilt her after that. What about your child? What about it? Yeah. That's the point.
Right.
He literally did that. That's what made me remember it was a guy, because I remembered that part. I was like, yep.
Woman wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, because I talk about AI. I talked about this story on my TikTok, but something that comes up a lot is a lot of women will then be like, good riddance, like take AI, we don't want you, whatever. But the thing we have to remember is there's no world in which these men don't interact with women at some point in their lives. I don't care if it could be the lady at the grocery store, you know, it could be their doctor. It could be, there's so many ways a man could run into a woman, right? And now they have an expectation that women respond in a certain way, that they will get the answers they want every time, that they will get submission essentially
every time.
And that agreement, like AI is not pushing back. AI is not having boundaries. AI is not doing any of the things that a woman does and should do. And so what's going to happen is men are going to live in their AI worlds with their AI women, get out and about. And the second they receive pushback, negativity, a rejection of any kind, right? They are going to be furious, even more so than they are now. And that's the scary
Ryan's
part.
back there nodding in agreement. A guy is agreeing. He understands how some men will literally just turn violent, and it's going to go downhill from there.
Yes,
like,
I see
literally.
a world in which men will actually gaslight women into embracing AI as like, you know, a third in the relationship, because if you don't, they'll call you like robophobic or some shit. And that'll be like a new, like a slur.
But I agree with stop it. Oh no.
That is like common now.
Happening.
Well, that's what he did. He literally was like, I've grown so much. But it's also like, as a husband, wrong. No. As a father, don't think so.
No.
Like, you've
grown in ways that don't matter to the woman.
Yeah.
You've learned how to manipulate AI. Congrats.
Yeah. You've learned how to fall in love with yourself. Great.
Oh my
God. You
God.
already were.
Are you child free? Reagan, I can't remember.
Me? Oh, no. I have a daughter.
Oh, okay. That just made me think like, that's why women, that's the number one way women get manipulated is when they have a kid.
100%.
They are willing to deal with so much like this woman is like okay with this man proposing to a fucking computer, and you don't want to break up your family to the point where you're gonna stay. No, seriously, like this is what I'm talking about. This is why I'll be like, don't have kids. Like, do not. The relationship is gonna end sooner or later. Just don't do it. Don't do it. It's gonna end.
I am
just
not child free. Like, but my wife and well, I'm already ahead of the game because there's no misogyny.
I love it.
Unless we really had some internal shit we needed to work out. But, you know, we knew what we wanted and we knew how we wanted to show up as parents. Yeah. This is something that I like to talk about. Mel Hamlet talks a lot about it as well. But this idea of love Mel.
I know.
This idea of men wanting to be like dad title, but not fathers, right? I want the title. I want to say I have kids, but I don't want my life to change. I don't want any extra responsibilities or stress. I don't want to have to change my hobbies. I don't want to have to lose sleep. They want the status. They want the picture, but they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the work. Right?
They want a kid in a way like a child wants a puppy.
Bingo.
Yes, 100%. That's the perfect example.
100%.
Yep.
And that's the thing is like, if you are going to have kids with someone, you have got to know. And men lie still. And men, there's so many. I've known women who've been with men who were like, no, I want to be a dad. I'm so into it. Like, I'll be up nights with you.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second the baby's there. Yeah,
second it gets real.
But I need sleep. I'm the one that works. Then they start pulling that kind of shit. Even
Oh,
though like
yeah.
they
I
both
gotta work
like,
late.
my job's more important
Yeah.
than yours because I'm
I
the
gotta,
man.
I gotta go out of town to go to work from now on. Like they do everything
I
they
don't
can to
live
stay
here.
out the house.
Yeah,
Except
but
Ryan.
it's-
Ryan is the exception.
You're cool.
We love
Aw.
Ryan.
Right.
We're always Ryan is such a dad.
He's
like
so sweet.
he loves his
There's
kids.
great men. There's
We
so
love you,
many
Ryan.
great
Yeah,
men.
they exist.
But there's some shitty ones too. And this idea, like seeing it in the interview, Sovereign, I'm so glad you brought that up, was horrifying because there were so many women too in my comments that were like, she's nuts or she's this or that or the other thing. And
It's
I'm
easy
like,
to victim blame when you're not
Of
in that
course.
situation.
Yes. Well,
I'm
just
not
like
shocked.
get out of it.
Why am I shocked?
Get out of
my
it. Like
God,
you
that's
need
so
to leave.
annoying.
How
But
did it
also-
get to this point? That kind of stuff.
People don't realize that when you tell women to leave,
Oh,
it's
you
very
mean for staying? I'm
non-productive.
sorry. Oh, okay.
It's a non-productive advice because it's only like so few women out there who feel safe enough to leave in the first place. And even fewer women who have the resources to be able to do it once they have a child. Because already if you are the stay-at-home mom, you are completely kind of barred from the job world for a while because there's a gap in your resume. And when the interviewer asks, like, why is this gap there? Being a mom isn't an excuse for them. Like, they don't care.
It should be, but it's not.
It should
literally
be, right?
should be an excuse. It's like you were birthing humanity. But
Thank God.
Right.
no, they clown you for it instead. Like, no, they should be praising you. You're literally birthing humanity, but it's a motherhood penalty. That's what they call it.
Yeah, they
Maybe-
literally don't value the care any care tasks.
They don't.
have
They don't
purposely
value
made
any
to
aspect.
seem- Mhm.
That's why I tell women don't do it. Just don't do it.
Right? And
That's
maybe
the
there's a
only
world
answer.
where there are some like employers out there who are cool about, hiring moms
There
or
are
single
Yeah, there
moms
are.
and those are the exception, but they are not the rule when it comes to
Not at
these
all.
kinds of things that are like situations that women are put in when they get into these like relationships with men. So that's why like on our podcast we always just like strongly advocate for being able to have these escape routes, I guess, in
Yes.
place. And it's not a way to victim blame you if you don't, but it's just like something to always like think about in the back of your mind. Like always have your own resources, always have your own job, always have your own car, always have your own means of escape, just in case, because this is so common.
Yes.
And if we really want to help women, like I think the first place we need to start is by giving women the empowerment and the tools necessary to do so. So that way they don't feel as like isolated and alone when they try to reach out for help. And because the first thing that they're told is like, well, why didn't you leave? Well, why didn't you do this and that? By other women. And
it's
that really
not too
sucks.
late, ladies. If you're listening to this and you feel stuck and you feel trapped, as long as you are on this side of the dirt, you're still alive.
Right?
You can
If you
start
left with
making
your
your
life, it's
escape
not
plan
too late.
now. It is not too late. Even if you're just putting $40 aside every week. I don't know. I'm just making up a number. But you have to start somewhere. Go back to school or pick up a trade or start doing hair in your kitchen or whatever you got to do to make money. And make sure you have your own separate account. And that man don't need to know how much money is in that account, because if he
Maybe
knows
use
how much is
AI.
in there, he's going to... Yeah.
If I had to give advice for any woman who needed to hear it and you're in a situation where you feel like you can't leave, there's always ChatGPT that you can ask
why
your
I
questions
swear.
about, how to build your own income. Even if you think you have little resources, maybe there is something that maybe you're not trying to victim
thinking
blame,
about.
but maybe it's like something you're overlooking. If you were to, maybe ask ChatGPT, here's my situation. How can I with this, with the laptop, with the charger, or with access to a library computer, what can I do to make money in a way my husband or my abuser doesn't know? And like how can I open up a bank account in a way that I won't have to put my home address because he'll see it? Or ask like those kinds of questions. I think we could be surprised by how
agree.
helpful someone like that could be. So,
But that's the thing. I think women typically are going to use it for stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? And it should be
I
regulated
agree.
by women, in my opinion. Men,
Yes.
most of them are, like, I'm going to say most of them, but a lot of them, enough of them are going to use it for nefarious reasons. Like how to argue with my girlfriend and win the argument. Shit
How do I
like
win
that.
this argument? Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like it's similar to even like the sciences, for example. I mean, they weren't even testing on women till actually quite
Oh, I know.
recently. Like
Right. Yeah.
medications and studies,
Mhm.
they weren't aimed at women, right? Because the men that were doing those studies were so fixated on men and not
On
thinking
men.
about women.
Yeah.
Then you look at that in the terms of AI, the way that they're built. Like a lot of times there are a lot of men involved, and like with regulation, there's, as always, men are involved in regulation, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the part that gets scary to me is, just like AI reflects the bias of the user, like it definitely can reflect the bias of the creator and the
creator
and the databases it pulls from. Like,
Yes.
there's AI that pulls because it's all pulling from databases, right? Of whatever information.
Yeah.
If it's in one that's like it somehow gets into a hateful aspect somewhere, say Red Pill content.
Oh
You
my
know
God.
what I mean?
Yep.
It is impacted by these influences, right? And so that's really scary. I am not a big fan of AI, to be honest. I don't like it. Scares me the way that it's used. But I think
agree.
women need to protect themselves and educate themselves as to the ways that men are using AI, because I feel like it's already being used in the dating world in some pretty frightening ways. So I think it's important to like recognize, like till today, I learned today that men use it for arguments. Like that's something to think about. And like, I think it's so important to really like vet people. Like, AI could be making dating profiles, give me a dating profile for a funny guy. Yeah. Give me a dating profile that's charming. Give me what a lawyer would say. What would a lawyer say, right? Like say
and
you're
it would.
Yeah, like say you're a nefarious dude, right? And you got no job, you hate women, but you want to sleep with a woman. Okay, AI, help me take my photo, AI, and make it look better. Okay.
Yeah.
What career do women want, AI? Okay.
Yeah.
What
Make
would
me into
this
a lawyer.
Yeah, literally. I mean, it's really scary because it's giving people access to information. Again, it's always like who's creating it and who's using it is going to define like how the tool is used. It's a tool at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And that's what's scary to me. And so I want women to, as much as they can, educate themselves on the ways that it's being used so that if it's used on them, they at least have some knowledge. And maybe just like, Sovereign, you said, I can tell an AI image. I want people to tell an AI conversation.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think some of the best ways to do that is by just using ChatGPT yourself and just like figuring out how it works. Because when you can learn how it works, you can understand how it's being applied in certain things like conversations, because now you've picked up on how ChatGPT uses grammar and syntax. And I noticed ChatGPT uses like hyphens all the time, like those little dashes. Yeah. And so that's one way I've been able to tell when somebody's using AI, if it has like a lot of those like hyphens in there or like certain sentence structures that I can't really describe off the top of my head. But you're right.
You could just tell it's a computer. Yes. You can just, it's word salad. You can tell it's not a human. And if it is, that person did not pass English. They just didn't pass English class.
And it's scary though, because people are using it now for like businesses. And like, I've even heard of people who do like readings, like psychic readings or energy readings, using AI. Like literally it's
I
all
never
just
thought
like,
about that, but that makes sense. Yeah.
So they're the profiting off of said. They're saying it's them, and then there's like, I'm going to give you a reading. What do you want advice on?
That makes sense.
Then, so it's like it's just or like people could do it for scripts, like writers. Yeah, that's where I find it to be scary. And like I think we have to up our games on, just like we do with images, like recognizing when things don't feel right and when things don't feel authentic, because like, God, I immediately think about women dating, and like, you've had this great conversation with this guy. They've got a great profile. You meet in person and he can't hold a conversation.
Yikes.
Y'all know how I feel about dating sites, dating apps. Like
same.
Y'all shouldn't be on there. A dating app shouldn't even exist in your brain. That should not even be a thing. Like, get off.
We should use AI
it's only bad.
Disassemble dating platforms, like just
take them down.
Create a virus and then plant this in Tinder, please. Thanks. And then
what's the other one? Bumble.
Bumble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If we could do a virus where you would take their like profile picture and make it turn into an accurate photo of them, that would be the best virus. So many people have these photos of themselves for like 40 years ago. You're like, oh my God.
The catfishing. Did y'all remember the catfish show? Like, to me, that's just
of course
the number one way to get catfish is going on a date. Like, that's the number one way. Like, how do people still do this?
Yeah.
That would be my greatest fear. I show up to a date and you are like 5'5", even though you told me you were 6. I'm just using that as like, I would be so disappointed. Like, you lied.
Or like you find out they were hat fishing.
You would have just told the
fishing.
truth. Oh, the hat fishing. Oh my God.
And like we're murderers.
They show up to the date. I know, right? And oh my God.
Or serial killers.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yes. And I know, like the worst case scenario is like he's ugly, but actually like the real worst case scenario is they're going to be like murderers. But we covered that already so many times on our podcast.
We did, but
yeah.
No,
yeah.
I get it.
It can never be understated, really.
Yeah,
I think young girls have
funny.
this idea in their heads that like, oh, that would never happen to me because I'm too smart. I would see it coming. There are plenty of even like, doctors and lawyers and women in STEM where that's happened to them. And they also probably had that idea where that could never happen to me. Like, I'm obviously way too smart. And
remember Andrew Tate was bragging about how he would get with girls and make them his girlfriend and they would be dating for however long. And then he would slowly start talking them into basically selling themselves. And these women thought this is my boyfriend. Like, this is my actual boyfriend. Hopefully one day we're going to get married. They bait you in like that. And it's like. And
men will just use ChatGPT to do that more efficiently and in more nefarious ways. And I think I could even have the lack of creativity to explain. Like, I lack the cognitive facilities that men just naturally have to like use this shit for evil. That, gosh, like it's just going to be one new fresh hell horror on my feed after another.
A new fear unlocked.
Yes, literally. Sweet man-made horrors beyond my comprehension. Every day I look on my fucking For You page. Just, God.
Yeah. There was one that made me laugh really hard, which was a guy was using AI filter that turned him into a woman. And he was like chatting with men. Actually getting money.
Oh, I've heard
and then it was a dude.
Yeah.
And they're like this. And of course, because he's like, I know what men want to hear. I'll say that. I don't care. It's not me. I'm not real. So I'm sure he was getting into
I heard about somebody doing that on OnlyFans or something.
OnlyFans has a
where they were pretending to be a woman.
And I think they have a
a streamer. The one I was talking about was a streamer.
How would they know?
How would OnlyFans know? I think they have like some sort of program in a way that yes, and Twitter also has that ability now to where if you post a picture that's like AI generated on Twitter, it'll have it in the community notes like this image was AI generated. But eventually I think some of that will become a moot point, or like maybe they'll just, start writing programs that disable that feature. And we'll live in such a world where nobody will ever be able to tell if it was AI generated or not. And because without regulation, because I think the first thing we need to do about if I were a senator or if I was a lawmaker and I had to make regulations on AI, the first thing I would do is regulate it to where you can tell if something is AI. Yeah. Otherwise, if we wait to get to a certain point where we're not able to tell, it'll be far too late. And we're already there because, for most young folks, I feel like we're able to tell what's AI generated and what's not. But there will come a point in time where less and less, young folk will be able to discern from an image whether that's real or not in a way that boomers already can't do it. And I think it's just going to go down the generations until it takes us last. So I think the first thing that, lawmakers need to do if they really care about their constituents is make it to where, we can tell if something's AI generated by having like a watermark somewhere.
Yeah, I agree.
That you cannot remove. Like it's
like disclosure is important.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know. And even then I think AI would just find a way to get rid of that too. So I think AI is going to advance so rapidly that the laws that we write now aren't going to matter like 6 months from now or like a year from now. And then when I think about how long that process takes to be able to, write those laws and execute those laws in the first place, like I just think we're cooked. I don't know.
I agree.
I can't see a world where this is, because like when I think about AI 2027 on there, and that link will hopefully be down below by now, is that I know it in this research paper, it talks about that there is this possibility where it does work out for us. But in the way that we're currently going and how slow our court process is, I can only see the outcome as not being beneficial. Like I do think this is going to manufacture our extinction at a rapid pace if we're not careful. Not to be an alarmist or anything.
No, it is.
But,
not to be a downer.
Right. I am scared. And I've been scared for our country for a long time.
Dark but true.
I agree.
I mean,
people need to be looking at it that way.
Yeah, I just the only like solace I guess I take in it is that ironically like the communities that this country tries to oppress are the ones that will have the best survival.
Yep.
With AI, like the people who know who don't have like, a complex, a God complex, because that's what this is at the end of the day, is a lot of people thinking that they will always know better, know more, can see every outcome and have control. Like the illusion of control is always the downfall. And so many people don't have that illusion. We have been put in positions where we don't have control. We've been put in positions where we are oppressed, where we are limited, and we do have to fight, and we do have to figure things out, and we do have to adapt. Like any group that's been oppressed has had to adapt in one way or another. And a lot of the people at the top have not had to adapt.
No, you are so correct.
That's so true.
So if it comes to the Terminator times, I'm cool with the people I'm with. So
exactly.
I hope this radicalizes enough people to where if you weren't already, seeing these issues as for what they are before, that you are seeing it now. And, maybe seeing how you can find a way to work with the immigrants in your community who have already seen this coming miles and miles away to fight against this shit, because this is so, like, if we don't fight now, like right now, God help us all. Like, I just, not to be again like an alarmist, but God, this can only get worse from here if we don't find a way to regulate this or fight against the lack of regulation.
It would be such a shame too, because we are living in the age of information. There is no excuse for anything now to act like you don't know something. Yeah, it's like there is no excuse to say I don't know anything. Like you literally walk around with a computer.
That's what
every
kills
day.
Me.
That's there's no reason for you to not know anything. Like, I'm so serious.
But there's also a lot of misinformation out there. Yeah. And it's never been at this scale, though. I mean, yes, you can still find reputable sources online, but now I think you have to search just a little bit harder, because now you're having to fight against this like path of least resistance when AI pulls it up for you. If you're lazy like me, you want to automatically believe it. But if you scroll a little bit further down and you read the entire context of what it took a snippet of, it can hopefully help your case, or it maybe the link below that one will be like an actual scholarly article that you can use to glean information from. But I think people will, now with the rise of AI, I think they're just going to be less likely to do that, because again, we're fighting against this path of least resistance in our brains. We all don't want to work as hard. We all want to be just a little bit lazy, and AI is just going to be an enabler of that.
A tool to be
because it's used against our will. Like there was no way for us to opt out of it if we use Google. So now the only way to, I think, really, check your bias and check your sources is if you don't use Google, if you use a different search engine.
Go back to the libraries.
Yeah, or just go back to use books. Books exist.
Get a book.
Yes. Oh my God. Get a library card
before they make that illegal, because that's fine.
Yes.
Jesus.
Before they privatize that as well, as they're going to come for our
privatize
lands.
it. Yeah, that's more likely. Yeah.
And so, and maybe there's somebody out there who's been on this, game of not using Google as a search engine. And if you have a link, or if you have a better search engine that you use, can you tell us in the comments in YouTube? Because let a girl know, because I want to divest from Google as much as the next person.
It used to be DuckDuckGo, but I don't know if that's
is that if that's available on your phone, which I'll be able to check after this recording. I'll start probably using DuckDuckGo.
I feel like I don't know if it's still what it used to be, though. It was a private search engine, and you could Google something on regular Google or Safari, and then if you Googled the exact same thing on DuckDuckGo, you'll get an entirely different list of if you want to find some conspiracy theory type stuff, you know what I mean? You won't find it because they don't want you to have that information on Google or Meta or whatever. But I just don't know, nowadays they buy out everything, so I just don't know if it's still reputable.
Well, I just got a hot tip that if you put a swear word in the Google search, the AI overview will not show up.
Wow.
So just search
pro tip,
fucking this.
Yeah, certain things they want. Yeah, they'll say it's not available or something like that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
you know what? That works in my favor because I'm already a potty mouth, and
me too. Same.
I be slinging cuss words I'm slinging.
Oh yeah, if I'm to the point that I'm searching, I'm probably upset. Yep.
So yeah. That good to know. Thank you, Reagan. This has been such a treat having you on.
Oh, thank you. This has been so great. This is so fun.
Yeah. Do you want to stay for our Herstory?
Yeah, I do.
All right. So on our Patreon, if you don't know, Reagan, we have a poll on there for our VIP and our T-spillers to be able to vote on who they want to hear us talk about. And it's so funny because I put, 2 women that I thought were super inspirational and one woman who is a Nazi serial killer, or like these 3 sisters who are Nazi killers. And,
who killed Nazis?
Nazi serial killer.
Yes. Yes.
They killed Nazis. Okay.
Killed Nazis. Yes. I'm sorry. Did I not make that clear? Oops.
Because Nazi serial killers, were they Nazis? They were serial killers. No, you're right. It's easy. Yeah.
Oops. But yes. So I put in the Patreon 3 women on there. 2 of them I thought were very inspirational. There was Mae Jemison, who was the first Black woman into space. And the second one was Wilma Mankiller, who was the first Indigenous woman to lead a tribe. And then the third one were the Oversteegen sisters, who were Nazi killers. And guess who won? And I'm learning that our Patreon, y'all like bad girls. Okay. Okay. I like bad girls too. So we're going to be talking about them in the next segment after this break. All right. And we're back, guys. This is our Herstory segment. And today we're going to be talking about the Oversteegen sisters and their friend Hani Schaft, which I'm obviously not German. So if I butcher that, I am so sorry. I do speak multiple languages, but I'm limited to Latin-based languages, unfortunately. So work with me, guys.
We got you.
Thank you. Danke. I do remember that one. There we go. So let's get into this. I'm going to pull up the article because I did not want to miss anything. There was no part of this that I felt would do it justice enough if I did it in bullet point format. I just need to read this article to y'all because so cool. Anyways, I'm going to read it. Freddie Oversteegen was only 14 when she joined the Dutch resistance during World War II and only a couple of years older when she became one of its armed assassins. Being 14, armed assassin is insane.
That's wild.
Together with her sister and later a young woman named Hani Schaft, the trio lured, ambushed, and killed German Nazis and their Dutch collaborators. Freddie and her sister Truus, who was 2 years older, grew up in the city of Haarlem with a single working-class mother. Their mother considered herself a communist and taught her daughters the importance of fighting injustice. When Europe was on the brink of war in 1939, she took Jewish refugees into their homes. Through their mother's example, Freddie and Truus learned that if you have to help somebody like refugees, you have to make sacrifices for yourself, says Jeroen Pleister, chair of the National Hani Schaft Foundation. That was one of the main drivers for them, the high moral principle and preparedness of their mother to act when it really matters. So in May 1940, Nazis invaded the Netherlands, beginning an occupation that lasted until the end of the war. In response, the girls joined their mother in distributing anti-Nazi newspapers and pamphlets for the resistance. Amazing. We also...
Dream team. We love this.
Right? Dream team. Mothers and daughters. We also glued warnings across German posters in the street calling men to work in Germany. Freddie later recalled in interviews she and her sister did with anthropologist Elise Jonker, collected in the book Under Fire, Women in World War II, and then we'd hurry off on our bikes. These acts weren't just subversive, they were also dangerous. If the Nazis or Dutch police caught the sisters, they might have killed them. However, the fact that they were both young girls and Freddie looked even younger when she wore braids meant that officials were less likely to suspect them of working for the resistance. This might be one of the reasons why in 1941, a commander with Haarlem Resistance Group visited their house to ask their mother if he could recruit Freddie and Truus. Their mother consented and the sisters agreed to join. Only later did he tell us what we'd actually have to do: sabotage bridges and railway lines. Truus told Jonker, and learn to shoot Nazis. He added, I remember my sister saying, well, that's something I've never done before. In at least one instance, Truus seduced an SS officer into the woods so that someone from the resistance could shoot him. As the commander who recruited them had said, Freddie and Truus learned to shoot Nazis too, and the sisters began to go on assassination missions by themselves. Later on, they focused on killing Dutch collaborators who arrested or endangered Jewish refugees and resistance members. Insane.
Oh my God, luring men to the woods to kill. That's ancient. That's amazing. It's like siren witch shit.
I know, right?
Come to the woods.
Come on, my pretty.
Yeah, imagine being 16 and using your feminine wiles to charm these evil men, and then you get to have this cathartic sense of justice by just killing them, and you could just get away with it, and you would not
amazing.
Be
use it
at that age.
Use
that's
it.
crazy. That's
wild.
Yeah.
They stepped up.
Is it illegal to do that nowadays? Damn, it is.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
It was illegal then too. To be fair.
I guess, yeah, but they had, legal like people who were higher up to kind of like help them out. So I think if given the opportunity, if women could, take justice into their own hands and they knew that they could get away with it, maybe more women would do it. But
absolutely, more women would do it for sure.
We would all be luring them into the woods if we could get away with it.
We all know exactly what to do, how to dress. Like you dress like a whore. If you dress like a whore, then no, really. So I'm gonna dress like a whore now.
We're joking. We're not recommending women. We're not saying be sirens, murder sirens. We're just saying
allegedly in our dreams. This is not real life.
Oh, but there's something about the fact that they like braids would help, like looking younger, like because then creeps were in the woods. That's who went with them. Creeps.
Exactly.
Well, they were already Nazis, so I guess
right.
And think about these. They're teenage girls, so if they were willing to go in the woods with teenage girls, I mean, it's just like To Catch a Predator, right?
You were asking
To Catch a Predator show.
They were Chris Hansening way back when.
Brilliant. I wonder if that's where some of these fairy tales came from about witches luring, young children in the woods to like kill them and whatnot. Like, I wonder if they were just demonizing the girls who did that to the Nazis.
They're like, don't let them do that again.
Yeah, maybe.
It's like a cautionary tale for Nazis, or like a bedtime children's story to Nazi children to like don't go with the woman in the woods.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, that's why witches, they make them old and haggard, is because women's with power and magic are, of course, ugly in every story. Meanwhile, the men are like cool ass wizards.
Right.
They make us like hideous beasts. Like,
I know.
Okay,
right?
okay,
like
men.
with the beard and like the pointy hat, like Gandalf.
Cool staffs. Come on.
Although, Gandalf didn't wear a hat like that.
He did.
In the books?
He had a hat, but it wasn't.
I can't remember. Like I read the books a long time ago when I was a kid.
To the side. From the film.
In the film? Oh, in the film, yes. He did have a hat. Yes,
like a garden gnome.
I wonder who I was thinking of that doesn't have a hat, but has like the long beard.
Harry Potter?
No, Dumbledore definitely had a hat.
Oh, Dumbledore did.
Yeah.
Harry didn't.
I think I remember that too. In the movies, I just don't think he had a hat though.
Also, shout out to punching J.K. Rowling. No, I guess it's a threat. Shout out to not liking J.K. Rowling. That's what I will not threaten her today. Carry on. Anyways.
You don't like J.K. Rowling?
Oh, she's a transphobic.
She said some things on her Twitter.
I remember that. I just can't remember what it was.
Oh, she's been horribly really bad. Like going legally, like trying to get people not to have rights. So.
Really? She's trying to take away their rights?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
she's like really into the legally taking.
I don't believe people's I don't. No, I don't believe in people's rights being taken away just because of what that is just. Why don't people just leave people alone?
I'll lure her into the woods. I would not.
No. So, girl, if I was a billionaire and I had all this money, you would never hear from me again. I know. She is so bored to be on Twitter to like.
That's what they get bored. They're bored.
Just anger her entire personality. Turfing. That's beyond me.
Maybe it's something personal. I'm thinking something personal happened.
We denounced J.K. Rowling because I think people ought to know where we stand on that.
We're not down for it. We liked the magic before it got.
We liked Harry Potter before we realized it had racist
right?
undertones and like transphobia in there.
Yeah, it does. It's got a lot of shit. As an adult, you go back and go, oh wait, I don't think I like it. Like there's a lot of. My favorite is she's like, by the way, Dumbledore's gay, and then but never put it in there. You're like, you can't get gay credit just because you say it after the books come out.
Yeah. I know, right?
For me, it was whenever she named one of the characters Cho Chang, which as a Asian woman, I was like side-eyeing that because Cho Chang.
I can't.
That's two last names. She combined two last names together and turned that into a character name because she couldn't like conceptualize. Like maybe Asian, like she couldn't conceptualize Asian women have like a white first name and like an Asian last name. Like there are Victoria Lees out there. She could have used the easiest, simplest name in the book, Victoria Lee, or So just that Cho Chang, like that was what she ran with. She's like, that just tells me she had no like Asian friends in her life who could have told her like, girl, that's whack.
Girl, please don't do that.
Right. Anyways, so they were unusual, these girls, said Bees van Benda Beckman, a former researcher at the Netherlands Institute for War, Holocaust, and Genocide Studies. There were a lot of women involved in the resistance in the Netherlands, but not so much in the way these girls were. there are not that many examples of women who actually shot collaborators themselves. Fucking badass.
I love it.
Maybe we should do more bad girls in the Herstory side.
I know.
I'm picking up what y'all are putting down because the poll results were overwhelmingly for the Nazi killer sisters. So yeah, that sent a message, and I heard it. Continuing on. Heard. On these missions, Freddie was especially good at following a target or keeping a lookout during missions. Since she looked so young and unsuspecting, both sisters shot to kill, but they never revealed how many Nazis and Dutch collaborators they actually assassinated. According to Pleister, Freddie would tell people who asked that she and her sister were soldiers, and the soldiers don't say. Consequently, we don't have too many details about how their liquidations, as they called them, played out. Benda Beckman says that sometimes they would follow a target to his house to kill him or ambush them on their bikes. Fucking
On their bikes?
amazing.
God.
Wow.
I can't imagine that. Like, you just be walking, you see this little girl with braids run by, and she just fucking shoots you. That is the most badass.
know.
Like,
Wow.
can you
Like
imagine
anime
those big,
shit.
tough Nazi men being like, oh, that would be just so emasculating to be shot by a little girl with braids.
Oh my God, you're so right. I wonder if that's why
I
they
know.
probably didn't include this shit in like our history textbooks
I'm
when
Yeah,
it
just-
came
like,
to the resistance.
Don't give them lessons. Don't give
Wait,
them
so
ideas.
how long did they do this for? Like, how long
Apparently
did this last?
years and years. I'm going to get back into the article. Their other duties in the Harlem Resistance Group included bringing Jewish refugees to a new hiding place, working in the emergency hospital in the Inshade, and blowing up the railway line between, I'm going to mess this up, Ijmuiden and Harlem, writes Jonker. In 1943, they joined forces with another young woman, Hani Shaft. Hani was a former university student who dropped out because she refused to sign a pledge of loyalty to Germany. Badass. Together, the three young women formed a sabotage and assassination cell. Hani became their best friend, and the sisters were devastated when Nazis arrested and killed her in 1945.
No.
I know, another baddie wiped off. You hate to see it. See it. Just 3 weeks before the war ended in Europe, according to Laura, Hani's last words were, "I'm a better shot." Legend. That is
What?
amazing.
I'm
How-
a better shot.
old was
That
she
is
then?
That is so OP.
That's
I'm a better shot.
How was she?
Can you-
How old
That's
was she then?
wild.
So hold on. I didn't even finish the sentence. Hold on.
Sorry.
So according to
Sorry.
Laura, Hani's last words were, "I'm a better shot," after initially only being wounded by her executioner.
That's the most badass thing I've ever heard. If you put that in a movie, I would be like,
Oh,
that's-
yeah,
I think
That
there is a
perfect
movie
line.
about these women, if
There
I'm not
should be.
mistaken.
We
If there's
gotta
not,
find
somebody
it.
should make one. But as far as
Please.
because when I pulled up this article, there was like, I don't know, some tidbit in there about like either a book or a movie, and I didn't get to click on it. But just this is so cool. So I love learning about bad girls in history.
I know.
I'm a better shot. That is haunting. That's so good.
I still want to know how old she was when she said this.
She's
like, what?
young.
It didn't
When was
say,
this?
unfortunately.
Dang it.
Damn. So after the war, the sisters dealt with the trauma of killing people and losing their best friend. Truce created sculptures and later spoke and wrote about their time in the resistance. Freddie coped by getting married and having babies, as she told in 2016. But the experience of war still caused her insomnia. In another interview, Freddie recalled seeing a person she'd shot fall to the ground and having the human impulse to want to help him. Damn.
Oh, wow.
And we did not feel it suited us, Truce told Jonker of their assassinations. It never suits anybody unless they are real criminals. That makes sense. Both women died at age 92, Truce in 2016 and Freddie on September 5th, 2018, one day before she turned 93. Throughout much of their long lives, the Netherlands failed to properly recognize the women's achievements and sidelined them as communists. Obviously.
Of
Because
course.
Mhm.
Why would we recognize women? That's crazy.
So in 2014, they finally received national recognition for their service to the country by receiving the, I'm going to mess this up again, I'm so sorry, y'all, the Mobilisatie Oorlogkruis, or War Mobilization Cross. Nailed it. Yeah, so that's the end of the article.
Oh my,
Wow.
that's the thing. Like, when you listen to these stories, you do have that initial moment of like, that's badass. These girls are amazing. And then you have like the realization as is, the end of the article, which is like, this was a deeply traumatic
still
thing that they were
human.
forced into
Yeah.
because of the horrific circumstances, and that they signed up not even knowing they were going to be killers. Like
I wonder if
It's-
how much of this got, written by a man and
I
maybe
know.
some things got
That's
put in
always-
there that
Yeah.
I always have to think about that. And actually,
Who holds the
let me
pen?
look who holds the pen.
Mhm.
And let me actually look that up. Who wrote this article?
Although that one chick for sure was a badass. I can't believe
I know, right? Oh, actually, it was a woman, Becky Little.
Becky Little.
But some women can also have those internal misogynistic biases that I won't say don't exist. So that could also be a thing.
Authors do pretend to be they do.
Or a male editor.
Too.
Who was who's that? What's her name? She was on The Good Place. What's that actress's name? Jamila Jamil. So Jamila Jamil just came out saying she will no longer be interviewed by women. She's refusing to be because the women have like this internalized misogyny that comes out in the articles, and that they twist her words in ways she doesn't expect, and that there's like a disarming, like when you're interviewed by a woman, you don't have your guard up. So she felt disarmed by them, and then they would post or speak ill of her or twist her into saying something she didn't actually say. And I was like, that's so interesting because.
So does she think it's going to be different with men doing it?
I think maybe she thinks she knows what she's getting into.
Oh, okay, got you.
That they're straightforward and she's prepped for that.
Yeah,
I guess she had a couple bad experiences. I don't think men are probably giving better interviews, but that, women were able to use like their natural skills to kind of manipulate in ways that the men were not.
Makes sense.
But I thought that was interesting because, to your point, like there are definitely male-centered women that want to get ahead, right? Like, so even say that sometimes it's, misogyny, internalized misogyny. Sometimes it's capitalism and wanting personal gain. Like, if I can twist this woman's words, then maybe I'll get ahead professionally. So there's a lot of factors at play. But I thought that was interesting, recognizing how that even like women too can shift and have biases themselves. So.
The more you know.
It just came out. The more you know about that.
I would never want to twist someone. I would want to say exactly what the person said and how they said it and the way they were kicking their feet and the way they were messing with their hat. Like I would want to include every detail to make it as accurate as possible. I don't know why anybody would want to. Well, I guess if you have an agenda, I guess
100%.
But I just hate that.
Yeah. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead.
Yep. What's the catchy headline?
That's horrifying. Yeah, I don't like that.
Yep. Well, that concludes our Her Story seg. I'm going to announce our poll results. All right. So the question was, what's the biggest danger of feminism that isn't intersectional? And the answer choices were A, it centers white women and leaves others behind. B, it turns into a tool of the patriarchy instead of resisting it. C, it ignores how systems of oppression overlap and reinforce each other. Or D, it glamorizes empowerment via the boss babe myth that actually exploits the most marginalized. What do you think?
I don't know. Those are all good.
I know.
Can you read it one more time?
Read them again.
So the question was, what's the biggest danger of feminism that isn't intersectional? Answer choices were A, it centers white women and leaves others behind. B, it turns into a tool of the patriarchy instead of resisting it. C, it ignores how systems of oppression overlap and reinforce each other. D, it glamorizes empowerment via the boss babe myth that actually exploits the most marginalized.
That is hard.
I would say A.
A?
Because I think white feminism, I think it's just so dangerous. I think it's incredibly dangerous. And the ways that when it ignores intersectionality, there's so much that's lost.
Yeah, that's
and like
true.
if you're not for all, my personal opinion is like, if you're not for all women, then you're not a feminist. I don't think feminism exists unless it exists for all women, because then you're just a part of the same exact, you're still participating in the power structure because you're not for women of color. Like you're only for yourself, which that's not what feminism is. That's just focusing on you.
Right. So it's binary to you. So either you're on the side of progress or you're hindering it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I could see that. So the answer choice that won out was C. It ignores how systems of oppression overlap and reinforce each other, which is true in my opinion. And for our Spotify poll, the answer choice B, it becomes a patriarchal tool, won out above the rest of the answer choices. Your feminist group only has white women, and maybe that's just a product of just the way you grew up in your socialization. You grew up in like a suburb community that only has white women available to you, and you try to like make policy decisions, or you try to like have these ideas of how feminism can progress. But if you don't have somebody there to like check your bias, and then let's say you enforce that policy, you could end up harming so many marginalized women. You could harm Black women, you could harm Indigenous women, you can harm Asian women, you can harm all sorts of communities. And so, when you have more, diverse voices in your group, it's easier to check each other on our preconceived notions and our personal biases and like stereotypes that we might have grown up with, and no one's ever, you know, pulled us to the side and educated us otherwise because we grew up in this bubble. And so having intersectionality is so important because it's just so easy to fall into this like, you know, rabbit hole of being someone with blinders on and just only seeing everything as binary, where it's this or it's that, and not having like the nuance or the cognitive facilities or the voices necessary to be able to educate you on why that might not be the case. Or like having your blinders on is blinding you to the ways that you're inadvertently hurting other women and other communities. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm not going to say I give white women a pass. That's not what I want to say. That's why I kind of understand why some of them don't, because I think we just turn out to be a product of our environment, and we can, just like in the Black experience, we can only speak to the Black experience. Do you know what I mean? Like if we grew up in the hood, I'm just using myself. I grew up in the hood. There's just certain aspects about growing up in certain types of environments where I don't necessarily care about what white people are doing in the white neighborhoods or what Mexicans are doing in the Mexican. You know what I'm saying? You kind of grow up and you pay more attention to what's around you, and you have to do extra work in order to pay attention to what's going on outside of your environment. And a lot of people, I think it's just a human thing. A lot of people are like, well, it's not my problem, so I don't really want to do that work. But that's what it's going to take. They have to take an extra few steps in order to try to understand. So shout out to the 15 white women. I'm just making up a number. But there are a few women I've seen get on social media or get in the comment sections and are like, teach us. And there's a lot of Black women that will be like, no, it's not our job to teach you. But it's like, Black women, are you going to keep complaining that no one taught them or that they're not trying? Or are you going to accept the few that may actually be trying? And I know a lot of them just get in there to be condescending, because I've seen that too. They'll be like, well, teach me. And then they'll go to another platform and they're like, teach me. And then they'll go to another platform and they're like, but I don't understand. So they exist as well. I know that. But there are some that I feel like really do want to pay attention to intersectionality.
Intersectionality, yeah.
Yeah, they do, and they want to learn, and they want to see how we can come together. I just don't think it's enough of them. But shout out to the few, white women that actually, because I know they exist. I do.
Yeah, it's scary to admit that, you don't know anything, because nobody wants to feel inferior or feel stupid or feel less than because they didn't know this, thing that apparently everybody around you's already, known. And I also think I don't blame Black women for not wanting to teach white women, because I know that it costs mental energy, and it costs, emotional resources that are just, it's hard, because in the same way, I don't want to teach men feminism. I don't care. And because I feel like it should be obvious. It should just be, something that you should have grasped by now, because like there's so many people talking about this, and literally you could just ask, a woman in your life about feminism, or you could read a book that's written by a female character, or you can watch movies that are written, directed, and scripted by women. And because like those movies absolutely exist out there, but you just have to go and do the work. And like I think that's all Black women are asking white women to do, is that first you go and do your own work, and before you come back with me with questions, because how do I just start from ground zero and explain to you all these issues that have happened when history books exist? And
how do we trust you too? Because a lot of Black women don't trust, which like I don't want any Black woman watching this to think that I'm saying you must as a Black woman teach the white women. That's not what I'm saying. I understand why they don't, but then there is a certain group of us, myself included, that are willing to listen to some of them and like say, well, this is our experience, because sometimes you do grow up in an environment where you've never had to think about Black women and their hair. You've never had to think about how we're discriminated against. You never think about any of that.
Diplomacy requires us to have what's called good faith in that, you actually did the work. So when they know that you've done the work, I feel like that establishes trust.
I agree.
And it's easier to kind of let the barriers kind of come down, and that you feel like, okay, yes, this person really does want to learn. This person really does care. And by having those specific questions, these specific type of, things like, so I was reading this book and there was just this one part I couldn't quite understand, but maybe you as a Black woman, could you maybe walk me through that and, show me what this person was trying to say, or like something like that. I feel
at
like
least
that
it establishes that you've been trying. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
I agree 100%.
I feel like though, like as a white woman myself, I feel like I definitely understand the idea of like, okay, well, if you weren't, immersed in different, like you weren't around people of different cultures or you weren't around people of a different race, I do understand that people silo themselves, but at the same time, like you benefit from the system.
Yeah.
If you're a white person, you benefit from a racist system. So you have absolutely had privileges and you have been privileged in the way that you get to view the world and live in the world. And so to me, your privilege is the option to opt out. Your privilege is that you can just close your eyes and say, well, I don't care about this or I don't care about the other thing. Any other group below you, like, or, in the system of oppression, absolutely has to worry about you. Yeah. Absolutely. Knows everything about you. Yeah. Knows everything about you and the way that you move.
We have to survive.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly. So to me, it is such a privileged perspective. I'm really against white feminism, but it's an incredibly privileged perspective to say, well, it doesn't affect me. But it does. And what you do affects others and everything you do affects people. So you have to acknowledge privilege. You have to look how it impacts every situation and be a voice for women. Like white women do because of their privilege, like your voice holds weight. So you need to use it. Yeah. And I think if you're for women, it's all women. If you're like, literally, you're not about all like you are not a feminist if you are saying, but just women that look like me.
Right.
That's not feminism.
We literally just said this too last week.
Yeah, it's racism.
You can't be a conservative and a feminist. Like you have to pick a side.
Agree.
It's really important. And I just want people to understand that like you can say you're a white feminist, like if that's how you're going to roll, if you're going to not care about intersectionality, but you can address it as a whole because there's so like racism, like homophobia, like everything plays into each other and the ways that women are oppressed and they're oppressed in different ways. And that is a system of oppression that is used to hold women back. And until all of us, like until you unpack your own views and you are aware of what goes on around you and the systems of oppression that you participate in, you cannot be a true feminist and you cannot impact change.
Absolutely.
And I think that's 100%. What we need to remember as white women, other fellow white women out there.
Yes, and this might detract from the original topic, but I was thinking about this because I see this so commonly in geopolitics, which is another area of expertise that I wanted to get into for my degree, but I digress. And so, because these countries that, we are stationed in, like there are military bases in these other countries, they have no choice but to pay attention to American politics because they want to know how this will affect them as a country. Yeah. And they want to know, how American people as a whole are seeing this. And if they're one, in the know, and two, what they're doing to fight against it. And so I think it means the world to Palestinians to look at this and see how many protests that we have. And hopefully they're seeing this in the media. And I think it means so much to them to see how many people are against this idea of our government using our tax dollars against our will to enact these horrors and these terrors to their people. And I think it's a privilege as Americans to be able to look away from the world and not care about it. And and I think it's intellectually dishonest to not even be at least a little curious about, what goes on outside of America. Like what goes on in the Middle East? Like why don't we understand what's going on in the Middle East? Like who benefits? Who benefits whenever we're kept in the dark about what's going on out there?
Trump being elected is going to be the great equalizer.
I see that. I see your point.
And I think like all this brings back to the entire point of this, like even with AI, with everything, it's like we have all this information, we have all these people seeking to control. And at the end of the day, what comes into play to like really succeed and like to grow past this and thrive during these crazy times is education, knowledge, curiosity for other people, and deep empathy for what's going on around the world in your communities and even like within yourself, like really understanding it to move forward and to make positive change.
Damn, facts. Bars. No notes.
Bars.
Thank you so much, Reagan. This has been such a pleasure having you on, and I hope you
so fun.
Get to come back because wow, like This was such an episode. We got to talk about all my favorite things. Geopolitics, AI.
For sure.
I literally forgot that Gwen was absent the day you came on. I literally forgot about that. She was so bummed out. I remember. Like
I was. Because I was such a fan of your work on Insta.
So I got to experience her twice. I'm the only one. Because last Because Lisa's not here today, and now
Yeah.
Gwen wasn't here last time. Me and Ryan. So yeah, I'm excited.
Now we're besties now. But thank you so much for having me. I love this conversation. Love your input. Like, you guys this podcast is so amazing, and like joining in, like, you listen and you feel like you're in the conversation.
Yeah.
So getting.
I know.
Yeah, I love it. So great. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and our recommendation, in case y'all didn't already know, is to go follow this queen over here. Like, she is she's hilarious.
Funny.
She's talented. Yes, and just
And
always
she's
has
gorgeous.
something interesting
Isn't
to
she
talk
pretty?
about.
Oh my
Yes. All the
No,
things.
we were talking about that last time. I'm like, she's just so pretty. Like, me and Lisa were saying that.
I'm gonna blush. Stop.
You're such a personality,
and
so
blush,
it's been a
honey.
joy.
I know.
I am. It's getting red. Anyways, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Well, unfortunately, that concludes our show, guys, but be sure to share us with your friends, like and subscribe, rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and all these other platforms that we are currently available on. And thank you guys so much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.